Hi, it's Alaska Granny. I've traveled to the lower 48. I'm spending some time with my grandchildren. We're going to have some adventures in my Granny camper, which is my Jayco travel trailer. I keep it in the lower 48, so I have my little Granny camper, my hangout, when I come and visit my grandchildren, so we can have adventures together. So while visiting your grandchildren should be just full of joy and adventure, maybe you've seen some of the headlines like I have. Massive shortages coming. Panic buying begins. Empty shelves in 2 weeks. Expect shortages from the tariffs. Out of stock warnings. Doom and gloom, that's not the way I want to live my life. And as preppers, we don't have to dwell on the gloom and doom. If we're preparing a little at a time, these alarmist headlines can give us concern that we want to make sure we are continuing to stay the course, to keep adding to our stockpile if we need to use, rotate, and replace the things that we have, and make sure that we have a wide variety. The whole reason to be a prepper is that you can avoid the panic that comes from these types of headlines. And I think in the last 5 years, I suppose, since the pandemic, I think we have become inundated with this year after year after year. So if you've been prepping for any amount of time, you should have some supplies on hand, and then you can quell some of those panic feelings within yourself that you're going to be able to do the best that you can. But on the other hand, it's still a good idea to look over your prepping supplies, stay the course, keep adding a little at a time so you have the things that you need if the true SHTF does come. And remember, prepping is for your situation, to keep your family going, because we all have crises within our own family. We might lose a job, or we get cut back on hours, or someone gets sick, you get an unexpected bill, your car stops running, or just a winter storm puts you stranded at home. You can't get out to get to work. So there are a lot of reasons that we want to be prepared just for the day-to-day emergencies that allow us to keep our life running smoothly. That's what prepping is. Lifestyle insurance, so you can get up and get going and overcome whatever the challenges are. And then the more small challenges that you face, the more you realize you have done hard things. You can face bigger, worse things, and you'll still be able to get through it because you've learned that you have confidence in yourself, you have the supplies that you need, and you'll be ready to go. So while I'm in the lower 48, they have Dollar Tree, and I love going to Dollar Tree. And so just to make sure that things are going to go okay for my family, I bought some longest lasting foods at Dollar Tree for my daughter's family, so that when I come here, I make sure, hey, there's enough for everyone, including me, which they are very good about being prepared. But sometimes it's easy for me to make sure that they fill in the blanks while they're busy taking kids to school, playing in sports, going to work, keeping up with all of the things around the house that need to be done. Grandma can come and can help a little bit. The first thing you want to do is make sure that you have a lot of open and eat type foods, so that in a crisis of the day, you can tear open something and eat it. You don't need to do any cooking. Then you should have a nice pantry full of foods that are easy to prepare. You can just put a few things together, maybe add water, heat it up, and you can put a meal on the table. And then you want the longest lasting foods, that if things go really bad, like some of these headlines say, that's when we want to have the longest lasting foods. We can rotate these as well, but they're going to last the longest. So if we don't get around to use, rotate, and replace them as quickly as, say, granola bars or cans of soup, these foods, if they're stored cool, dark, and dry, airtight, can last for the very longest amount of time. So I went to Dollar Tree to stock up on the longest lasting foods. They're still available, and they're still $1.25, so you can't beat that. First, I bought 2 boxes of pasta. Pasta can last nearly forever if you store it airtight. Don't just leave it in the box because it's just loose in the box. It can get stale. It can get chewed on. Critters would love to get into your pantry and chomp on this stuff. And if something spills, it's going to ruin this food that's not stored properly. Storing foods airtight can be as simple as storing them into a jar, adding them into a Food Saver vacuum seal type bag, and putting them into some hard-sided plastic container. Maybe you want to put them in Mylar bags, 5-gallon buckets. There's all different ways to store the foods that can last the longest, and the better you store it, the longer it lasts. But don't get hung up on the details of there's only one right way. There are many ways to store your food so that it'll last, but do the best that you can with what you have. Don't spend a whole ton of money buying the supplies to store the food. Make sure that you have the food, and then as you have enough food and more money, you can maybe get some better ways to store it. But the point is, having some food on hand is what's going to help you survive, not just having the equipment to store it. That can't feed you in an emergency. You need the actual food. I picked up a bottle of soy sauce. Did you realize soy sauce can last nearly forever because it has a vinegar base? Soy sauce is great for flavoring up all kinds of things, especially if you're stocking up on beans and rice. Soy sauce is great to have to change the flavors so that you don't get food fatigue and your food isn't just boring bowls of plain beans and rice. You have some flavor additives. I bought 2 quart bottles of white vinegar at Dollar Tree. You can see the labels are different, but it's still exactly the same. It's white vinegar. And not only can you use it for cooking, pickling, canning, you can also use it for cleaning and disinfecting. So having white vinegar is great. You can pick it up inexpensively. It's a nice size, and these are pretty sturdy containers, and then you'll have some of the longest lasting items in your pantry and your food storage and prepping supply stockpile. Now, we know about the longest lasting foods. We're always hearing about rice, so I picked up a 2-pound bag of white rice. This is a very inexpensive way to have a lot of food on hand. All you need is to boil some water, add the rice, put on the lid, and let it go for 20 minutes, and then you're going to have some rice to eat. White rice lasts the longest, nearly forever. Brown rice is a nice food to have, but it's full of natural oil, so it's going to go rancid. So if you want brown rice, make sure that you consider it a shorter term food, and white rice for the longest lasting food. White rice is so versatile. You can combine it with all types of things. You can stretch out soups, stews, casseroles, put just about anything with rice, and you can make your food go farther for not a lot of money. It's not a joke that we want beans in rice, because beans are a super long lasting food. They're very inexpensive, they're simple to prepare, and you can pick them up 1 pound at a time at Dollar Tree. Other stores, for example at Walmart, I noticed that it depends on the type of bean it is and how much it costs. And other than pinto beans, other beans tend to be very much more expensive. So if you want to get a variety, look at Dollar Tree if you have one near you. I picked up a pound of pinto beans. They're easy to put them in the crock pot, add a few things, let them cook all day long, and you have your beans are done. As long as you rinse them and pick them over, you don't need to soak most beans for them to cook in the crock pot. I also picked up some Great Northern beans. These are very nice, and a lot of times they're more expensive, so I picked up 2 bags of these because they're tasty, they're versatile, and you know, we tend to have a lot of pinto beans already because they're the ones that you can find in the huge bags. I also bought a 1 pound bag of black beans. Black beans are also something that I make in the crock pot all the time. Toss in some water, some broth, tomatoes, spices, all different ways you can prepare them. I've made several videos about preparing beans, all different kinds, in the crock pot. You can look for some of those on my channel if you're interested. Something else to know about the beans, when you buy the 1 pound bag of beans, this is equal to about 3.5 cans of beans. So do you see how you're getting lots of food, but you're going to need lots of water to prepare these, so make sure you're counting that in your emergency stockpile and your plan. A very simple protein is lentils. They're inexpensive. Lentils cook much faster than beans. They're full of protein. They're easy to prepare. They're versatile, and you can use them like to add into, say, ground beef recipes, or if you don't have ground beef, you can use lentils a lot of times in those kind of recipes. They're very versatile in soups and stews, and if you haven't tried lentils, check them out because they're really very delicious. An item that I found at Dollar Tree that can help me store my food airtight: packages of canning lids. These fit on mason canning jars, but they only have the regular mouth lids. I have never seen the wide mouth lids, but that's okay because maybe you have canning jars. These use the wide mouth lid, but maybe you also have some that take the smaller lid. I prefer the larger one. It's just a favorite of mine, but I have both, and when I can find the lids at an affordable price, it's certainly something to stock up on. It doesn't matter what size jar you have as long as you're filling it to the top. But if you're only going to have, say, one package of beans, don't start in a great big jar because then it's just full of air if you only have, say, this many beans. You want to store your food in this container that fits it the best so that it will last the longest. So say if you fill this all the way with beans, but then you use some of them, you might want to transfer the remainder into a smaller container and then maybe refill the large one with some fresh food. And that would be how you would use, rotate, and replace it. Look for jars at yard sales, thrift stores, on sale, even at stores like Walmart. Sometimes you can even find them on Amazon, but a lot of times they're more expensive on Amazon, but not always. So you want to keep looking. And if somebody you know isn't canning anymore, maybe they want to get rid of things. So keep your eye out because you never know when you may find jars. You can also reuse jars that you buy products in, but make sure that you get the lid as clean as possible because the lids tend to hold in and absorb aromas, and then you don't want your food that you're storing, say your rice, to smell like pickles or hot sauce. You want to make sure that you're getting the best use out of the storage and you're not then contaminating the food so nobody wants to eat it. Okay, I'm not really sure anybody wants pickle flavored rice, but maybe, yeah, I guess under certain circumstances, maybe we would like pickled rice. Who knows? So don't overreact when you hear things like massive shortages are coming, panic buying begins, empty shelves in 2 weeks, expect shortages from the tariffs, out of stock warnings. We don't need to panic over those thoughts and headlines and the fear that people are spreading because we know that we can still get the things we want. The stores are still full wherever I have been. There is still time to get the things that you need. So make a budget, stick to it, get a little bit at a time, but get variety. Don't just get like 50 pounds of beans and nothing else because if something happens tomorrow, that's all you have to eat. So you want to start with the tear open and eat all different kinds of no-cook foods, then get a pantry full of a variety of canned and packaged foods, and then go in and get a variety of the longest lasting foods. That's the best way I know to be a prepper, and so far it's worked for me for many decades. Let us know what foods you're stocking up on and how do you stay calm when you read some of these headlines. That can be the challenge that we're facing in these days. I hope you'll like my video, share it with someone else you think might enjoy it. Please subscribe to the Alaska Granny channel.